Inmates in the largest metropolitan jail in the state of New Mexico, known as BCDC, Bernalillo County Metropolitan Jail, right up there on the west side. And of those 350 plus, I think right now, are Native American enrolled. And for those 3,500 inmates, there are 224 religious volunteers. There's one Jewish religious volunteer, one Buddhist, one Islamist, one Native, and 200 and almost 20 Christian religious volunteers. So I go to Bernalillo County Jail, and it took me 2 years to get to where I am today. It took me 2 years to be able to not just take the pipe in there and sit with the natives. I could load the pipe. It took a long time. I had to write every little thing down, and every time I go in, I have to pull everything out. The bowl has to be a certain length. The stem has to be a certain length. Your drum is only a certain amount of inches that it can be round in circumference. The stick has to be a certain length. The chinchasha, or the prayer smoke, cannot have actual tobacco. It's got to be non-tobacco. My medicine bag, and the medicine bags provided to inmates must be documented what's inside and can be inspected but not handled. Federal law. I have to write everything down, and the difficulty of going in there is that every pod has a different captain, and every captain has a different belief, and most of them have no concept or idea of Native religion. So some of them mad dog me, look down at me, you know, give me hard time. Not anymore as much as used to, because now they see me regularly. When I go in the pod, and all the homeboys and everybody starts to come at you a little bit. Hey, what's up? What do you got in that bag, Holmes? What's going on? What's, you know, hey, what do you got there? What are you doing? Hey, you know, and all this, right? And so we had to create a policy within the federal policy, within the state policy. That institution has its own policy. And that policy requires certain orientation. So I brought some documents here. We didn't have a place to set it up. I'll put them out. But it shows the protocols that I give to each captain in each cell, in each pod, and explain to them that this is, you know, this has been okayed by Chief Raymond Rustin, the chief of the detention center up there, and it's signed by him and signed by the chaplain Marie Lowry, who's the main chaplain up there, and then I take that document, and then when I go in the pod, I have to announce Native American prayer service. And usually a lot of newcomers that haven't seen me before will come out, but the inside policy is that only Native Americans up until now can participate in that ceremony, because non-Indians assume that we're going to smoke tobacco in the pipe, and they all want to come, thinking that we're going to be passing around tobacco. And so right now the policy is that only Native American can participate in our ceremonies, and it's the only religion where that is a policy at this point. So I go in and I make my announcement. And it took us a long time. I used to go in these teeny little classroom, very small, maybe a quarter of what the size of this room is. And then we would go in that little classroom and they would just sit all along the wall, and I'd put out this robe. I put this robe out. And I grab my wokie, bring out my pipe and everything. And for 2 years I was allowed to load the pipe, sing the pipe loading song. I wasn't allowed to smudge or burn anything. So I would get cedar or sage and put a pinch in their hands and let them rub themselves and purify themselves with the medicine like that, dry. And then, and only then, could they handle the pipe. Many of them for the first time had no idea about their own religion. Up to date, in 2012, we worked with 56 different tribal affiliations in the institution, male and female. The oldest, 68 years old, and the youngest, of course, 18 in the adult facility. The average female, 29 years old, average male, 30. And we work with several hundred throughout the year. We do a prayer, sing the song, and we allow them to handle the eagle wing, many of them, for the first time, are able to handle something sacred and holy. Some of my bros in the medicine way, in the Sundance way, say, you shouldn't take something holy like that and let these people handle that. At first, when they come in, many of them are their first time, even our own native bros. They're kind of squirrely and posturing and sizing me up and all that kind of stuff. But eventually, when I speak and I pray, the room changes, the energy changes, and then they realize it's Wakan, it's holy, and they all somehow, some way, even if they've been removed from their traditional life, they all follow suit, and they get very respectful. And I've never had an outburst in all the several hundred that I've touched or worked with. So they take that medicine and then they handle that pipe. Many of them immediately, their eyes start to water, their heads go down. Interesting about the native, in most institutions you don't cry, no matter what. But the natives, they don't cry, they weep in a respectful way. No one makes fun, no one eyeballs. That pipe goes around and they begin to pray for those that they love, those that they've harmed, and those that have harmed them. Once the pipe goes around, we finish our prayer. I begin to put things away. I go to the next pod in and out of the clanging doors. And I try to get to at least 3 or 4 pods every time I go. So roughly around 50 to 70 inmates on a day when I go up there will pray with me. That's BCDC. Every 2 weeks I go to, then I bring the pipe home to our altar at La Placita. We have a lodge in the back. Every Thursday we have an EP. And many families come. Babies, we just had 2 naming ceremonies last week for 2 little baby girls. Entire families came. It was really beautiful. Big feast, giveaway, what we got. A lot of fried bread. The boo-boo. All the good stuff. We do the ceremonies on a regular basis there down in the South Valley. Every week. And we take that pipe loaded with all of those inmates' prayers. And we pray with it there. And we smoke it with the teoshpai down there. The women got together and sewed a bunch of medicine bags. In the bylaws, you can have a pinch of sage, cedar, and tobacco, certain kind. And you can have corn kernel or a small piece of pipestone. Recently, we had an incident when a man asked for a medicine bag. It's no different than requesting a crucifix. We have federal law that enables that. But they can inspect it at any time. They can't handle it. So I tell them, and I offer this upon request, but with discipline, because if it's requested and they refuse to give it, they can get another charge. Anything foreign outside of what I mentioned would be considered contraband. So it's a responsibility. These small things, these small details must be taught. So recently, a couple months ago, one of the native brothers who had been praying in the circle with us for some time was being transported to court. And the transport correctional officer told him to take it off. He refused. So the transport officer grabbed it and pulled it off and threw it away. Well, he almost got a charge for refusing. It came to me what had happened, and I took it to Chief Rustin. And I said, I don't want to get the man in trouble, but I want to meet him and I want to explain to him what this means. So my biggest piece of work isn't the prayer, it's the system. The turnover, the constant, every single time I go up there, I'm orienting correctional officers, captains, the staff, the administration. Every single time I go there. It's a part of my regular responsibility or duty now. It requires more effort than doing the actual ceremony itself. Every 2 weeks in Santa Fe, right off of the 25, you guys see this. You see the institution. They have the detention center there. We just built a lodge about 4 months ago there. they have one wing is state, the other wing is federal, and the other is county. And so I go up there, and it took us a long time. Risk management, fire codes, administration, liabilities. It takes years to negotiate. But we did it. And I go up there, and when you run lodge inside, for many of the brothers that are in there, believe it or not, it's their first time. The largest population I serve in the state of New Mexico is Navajo, Bene. Second is the Pueblo, the various Pueblos, and Apache, and many other tribal affiliations that are locked up here in New Mexico. So we go up there every 2 weeks, run 8 rounds, 2 separate lodges back to back. Wears me out a little bit. But, you know, I don't rush it. Oh, I could probably try to go say, oh, we're going to do eagle sweat, 2 rounds real hot, hey. But that's not right. That's not fair to them. 4 rounds, songs, loading the pipe, load it again, the next one. Do everything the way we were taught. Don't change it. Keep it simple. Don't over-ritualize it, but keep it holy. The appreciation that the men show, the ability to come out and have a home or a place or an altar to go to. Most of them, 90%, upon return, knowing that we've sweat inside, do not come. Maybe 10% will show up. And of the 10%, maybe 1 or 2% of those will actually stay out and continue coming to pray. The influence of the greater society is hard. Racial equity, religious equity, is a piece that is very critical for us. Today, as a result, this photo you see is right here on 2nd Street. And that's a sweat lodge right there. This young man is holding the pipe. And it took me 3 years to be able to conduct this pipe ceremony in the Youth Detention Center here on 2nd Street. I put this lodge up a year ago last month. Not one youth has been in it yet. Again, Bernalillo County Risk Management has avoided the permission because they fear liability. I just had a meeting with them last week again. What we can do for our people, for our youngsters, the beginning of the process for them. So they asked me questions. Does it have to be completely dark in there? Can you tell me the temperature, how hot it would really get? Can a staff of the Youth Detention Center be in with us? How far apart do they sit from each other? Those kinds of things. That's what I have to deal with. I have to provide my own liability insurance, use my organization, and pay insurance up to $2 million of insurance coverage. We're doing it. But we still have difficulty getting them to understand our way. You have a chapel, they have a priest, they have, ceremony in their way. This is ours. But for some reason there's either a knowledge or an inability to grasp how these things are religious, are holy, are needed in this way. So soon I hope to bring the youth in. But that's the truth. That's where we are. We're at that stage currently.
Were there no Native American guards? Staff?
There are, but they don't sweat. Not all Native Americans do these ceremonies. And sometimes they become a greater liability for ceremonies because it's not their tribal way. I respect that. So I need to be able to bring in Pueblo elders, Pache, Dene, others. And I gotta be honest with you, let's just be frank here. When we came out with those statistics and numbers about the Native American youth spending more time behind bars, there was a big statewide meeting at the BIA offices right there on 12th Street. I was invited to speak, so I came and I spoke. And I shared that with them. And I asked them, why is it, do you think, you natives, why do you think they're spending more time behind bars than the other races? Can anyone answer that here?
Because they're more likely to have federal crimes, which have longer sentences?
Could be.
Fear.
Anyone else?
Fear.
Why?
Fear.
Fear?
Total ignorance and fear.
Ignorance and fear?
A racist system?
Biggest
A racist system?
Yeah.
And classist.
I'm sorry?
And classist.
Yeah.
Classist?
Classist. It's a classist system.
Classist
Native
system?
Americans often at the bottom.
Going back 100 years.
Going back 100 years.
Because they can get away with it.
Because they can get away with it. Here's the thing. Some of them said because if they keep them to a regular sentence and they get put on adjudication, probation, something like that, they'll go back to the tribal land and maybe lose jurisdiction. Another one said there's not enough referral resources for the Native American youth that are relevant. Another one. My answer is that it's all the above. So what are we going to do about it? And nothing's been done yet. So I just continue doing what I do and sharing it with you. Maybe together we can come up with a solution. Here is the final little piece that shows what I'm facing around this whole racial equity divide. It was done by the Kellogg Foundation, who came down and saw what we were doing mostly in our urban gardening programming. But they also are trying to figure out how they can support this cultural work. They're having difficulty figuring it out. But nevertheless, they came down and shot this video of some of the work. This is the current work that we're doing.
There's a little bit of context before, so. The value?
This Leonard Peltier has served 36 years. History, we have to know where we come from in order to know where we're going.
I think it's terribly important that communities who have the courage, that they get the support that they need to come together and explore their unique histories and envision together the type of future that they want for their communities.
We equip citizens to heal their own communities, as they know their communities best, and we try to support them as they come together across historic racial divides to make their communities better.
You can't legislate healing. You can't legislate forgiveness. It has to start within the heart of that person.
This face is the face of racism. The mission of La Placita is to provide a space and place for healing. Our standing philosophy is La Cultura Cura, which translates to culture heals. Why are the Native American youth spending more time behind bars than all the other races for the same exact crime? 2 years. What's that all about? What is the charge? Violation? Well, it's not a new charge. It's a violation, isn't it?
When those who are meting out those decisions, who are making those decisions, are so disconnected from the population that they're judging, that leads to what we believe are the horrendous, disparate, and inequitable outcomes that we see.
I will speak honestly to you. I give you my word. Will you speak honest with me? I received a lot of blows when I was a kid. So by the age of 13, I got stabbed by a black dude. And by the age of 14, I got shot by a white dude. This face is, you know, the recipient of racism. And it's the product of racism. It's also the face of, you know, the solution. Should I choose it to be? It's the face of healing. Homie, I'm glad you're here. That's real man shit right there. I could tell. You want to do something with your life, don't you, bro? Okay. We're gonna work on it, okay? All right. Good to meet you too. Follow me. Every time I do this, a piece of my heart breaks. It just chips away. And I gotta fight for these people. Build something to deal with that institutional racism. And provide some kind of healing inside here to prepare them, to get them ready for additional healing when they get out of here. Here, kids come in custody, they touch the earth, they feel the sun. It is one of the most powerful medicines and tools that I have today. farming and intervention, farming and healing. True medicine. To me, if you really want to get to the core of it, we have to heal racial inequity. I could spend my whole life confronting racism. I choose not to. And I choose not to do that with our people. Oh, I address it, but I deal with it very differently today than I have in the past in my life. And that is healing within itself. That is medicine for me.
So I don't know if that was what you were expecting. Wanted to give you a local flavor. What's going on, what we're facing, what we're doing. None of this that I showed you right now in the past 35 minutes, 40 minutes, would have been possible
without people like Lenny Foster, like Leonard, and all the elders, you know, throughout the years. There are many of them who paved the way, and so I take it seriously, and I honor them. We still have a lot of work to do, and sometimes we get weary, but it doesn't stop us. I want to thank you know, you from the Peace and Justice Center, you know, for continuing your work. We're going to continue ours, and for all of you who are impacting lives, you know, children, families, people, both inside and outside. You ever get a chance to come down, we're on Isleta Boulevard, 831. We're next to a famous burrito joint known as Kathy's Carryout. If you know the South Valley, you know Kathy's. We're right next to it. There's so many other programs and projects that we're doing there that all interrelate, but this specifically was the work and is the work that we're doing inside the institution and with those who are returning. Thank you.
Thank you, Albino. Thank you, Albino. Yeah, encourage everybody to visit his website, laplacitainstitute.org. We're going to get a table for you, Albino. I'm sorry we didn't have one. We'll put your information on, and a few housekeeping things before we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with unoccupied guest speakers. Stantos and Hatuk Hill will be our two speakers left on the bill for tonight. Sam English asked for a minute to talk, so we're going to try and make sure we have time for him to say something. Alan Cooper is going to tell us about Wounded Knee events coming up marking the anniversary of that. So we'll take a 15-minute break or thereabouts. We'll announce the startup again and give you another chance to get at all that good food you all about to share. So again, thanks, Albino. And we'll be back in about 15 minutes.
Good.